She thought it was hilarious to pull a stunt at my birthday bash, presenting me with a box containing divorce papers. The room erupted in laughter. I had just extinguished my candles. 2 days later, she received a letter from my attorney. A man's 40th birthday is meant to be a landmark, a moment to reflect on life's achievements and celebrate the journey. My 40th last Saturday was certainly a turning point. It was the day I realized my wife of a decade didn't just lack respect for me, she outright loathed me. And it was the day I chose to return the sentiment. Let me set the scene. My name's David, and I run a commercial real estate company. It's a high-pressure, high-payoff industry, and I've done well for myself. My wife, Emily, used to manage an art gallery, but now, in her words, orchestrates our lifestyle. In truth, that means yoga classes, long brunches with her jobless friends, and burning through my income. For years, I didn't mind. I loved her. I took pride in giving her a life where she didn't need to work. But over the past few years, things shifted. Her gratitude turned into a toxic sense of entitlement. I went from being her partner to her financier, from her husband to a walking credit card. Her jabs at me, always in front of her friends, grew sharper and more frequent. She'd ridicule my taste in films, my dull hobbies like fishing, even my wardrobe. I was the plain, unrefined guy bankrolling her extravagant life, and she resented me for it. I wasn't spineless. I fought back. We had explosive arguments, massive, screaming matches. Each one ended with her in tears, calling me a tyrant, saying I couldn't handle a joke. Then she'd give me the cold shoulder for days, and I, like a fool, would eventually cave just to restore some calm in my own home. I knew our marriage was crumbling. I even suggested couples therapy. She laughed in my face. "We don't need a therapist, David," she said. "You just need to chill out." So, for my 40th, she decided to help me relax. She threw a lavish party at our house, my house, an important detail. All our friends were there. On the surface, it was a fantastic evening. Great food, great music, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Then came the cake and gifts. I sat at the head of our dining table, a massive, over-the-top cake with 40 candles glowing before me. The crowd gathered, singing. For a moment, I felt genuinely content. I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd be all right. Then Emily emerged from the kitchen, holding a single, elegantly wrapped gift box. "One last present, sweetheart," she said, her voice dripping with fake affection. "This one's from me." She set the box in front of me. It was heavy. I glanced at her, noticing that familiar glint in her eyes, a sign of impending drama. Her friends, a trio of catty women I've always disliked, stood behind her, phones out, filming. I opened the box. Inside, tucked in tissue paper, was a sleek leather-bound folder. I opened it. The first page was a professionally designed cover sheet. It read, "The Law Offices of Sterling and Finch," and below, in bold letters, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage." It was a complete, legally formatted set of divorce papers. My name, her name, all our details. She'd consulted a lawyer. She had these drawn up as a joke. I stared at them. The room fell silent. Then came a chuckle, one of her friends, then another. Soon her entire side of the room was roaring with laughter. It was a harsh, mocking sound. They thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. I looked at Emily. She was grinning, a smug, victorious smile basking in her friend's approval. I didn't say a word. I stared at the papers, then at her, laughing at my expense. I glanced at the 40 candles on my cake, took a deep breath, and blew them all out. I made a wish, a very specific one. Then I stood, forcing a genuine smile. "Great prank, honey," I said, my voice steady. "You really got me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to grab more champagne." I walked out of the room without looking back. The party was done. My marriage was done. And my wife had just given me the ultimate birthday gift, the perfect, airtight reason to dismantle her world. Update 1. The rest of the night was a performance for the ages on my part. I returned with the champagne, laughing and joking, playing the role of the good-natured husband who could take a hit, no matter how vicious. Emily and her friends were jubilant. They'd proven yet again that I was the dull, predictable guy who'd roll over for their cruelty. They had no clue they were toasting their own demise. Once the last guest left around 2 a.m., I went to my office. I still had the box with the divorce papers. I pulled them out and examined them. They were legitimate. She'd actually hired a lawyer to draft them. The level of planning was staggering. I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, mapping out my next steps. My retaliation couldn't be emotional. It had to be calculated, precise, and financially crippling. She turned our marriage into a punchline. I was going to make her life the joke. On Monday morning, I sprang into action. My first call was to my attorney, not just any lawyer, but the most ferocious divorce lawyer in town. a woman named Diana, known for her ruthless approach. I told her everything. I sent her the photos and videos her friends had so kindly recorded. She was quiet for a moment after I finished. Then she said, "Oh, we're going to enjoy this." My second call was to a private investigator. I gave him one target, Emily's best friend, Qley, the leader of her little clique. I had a hunch Qley's perfect life wasn't as flawless as she let on. I told the pie to dig deep. My third call was to my bank. I had several joint accounts and credit cards with Emily. Over the next hour, I withdrew my half of the funds and canceled every card with her name on it. Her financial lifeline, me, was cut off. My final move that morning was the most gratifying. Emily had a horse, an absurdly expensive show horse that was her pride and joy, her ultimate status symbol. The horse was kept at an elite equestrian club. The monthly fees were exorbitant, and naturally I paid them all via a credit card I'd just canceled. I drove to the stable. I met with the owner, a woman I'd spoken to before. I explained the situation. My wife and I were separating. I would no longer cover the horse's expenses. I told her, per our contract, she'd need to contact the horse's legal owner, Emily, to arrange future payments or the horse's removal. The owner was understanding but firm. Business is business. She said she'd reach out to Emily that day. I went home and waited. The first sign of impact was a panicked text from Emily around noon. My card was declined at Nordstrom. "What's happening?" I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. "The stable just called. They said you're not paying for Star anymore. Is this a prank? It's not funny, David." I stayed silent, sitting in my office, staring at the box of divorce papers she'd given me. She stormed into the house around 4 p.m., her face a storm of fury. "David, what the hell did you do?" I looked up from my laptop. "Just following your lead, sweetheart," I said calmly. "You wanted a divorce. I'm just moving things along, thought you'd be thrilled." "That was a joke," she screamed. "A prank, you know I didn't mean it. Didn't you?" I asked. I stood and faced her. "You hired a lawyer, Emily. You had legal documents drawn up. You and your friends planned it. You recorded it. That's not a prank. That's a rehearsal. And you know what? You convinced me. You were right. We should get divorced." "You can't do this," she sobbed. "I can," I said. "And I am. My lawyer will contact your lawyer, the one you so kindly provided the name of, tomorrow with an official response to your petition. I suggest you figure out how to pay for him because I won't. And I suggest you figure out how to pay for your horse, your car, and your brunches because the Bank of David is closed." I turned, walked back to my office, and shut the door. I could hear her yelling and smashing things in the living room. It was the sound of a woman realizing the joke had always been on her. Update 2. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal strategy and her mounting desperation. My lawyer, Diana, was relentless. She filed a counterpetition for divorce, citing extreme cruelty. Her main evidence, the videos from my birthday, conveniently filmed by Emily's friends. The judge, Diana said, was not amused by the stunt. Emily's world unraveled at breakneck speed. With her credit cards canceled and her bank account drained, she was suddenly penniless. The equestrian club gave her a 1-week ultimatum to pay thousands in overdue fees, or they'd sell her horse to cover the debt. Her car, leased in my name, was repossessed from her parents' driveway, where she'd been forced to move. Her friends, who had laughed so hard at my humiliation, vanished. It's amazing how fast people scatter when the brunch fund dries up. Then came the private investigator's report, and it was better than I could have hoped. Qley, the ringleader, was sleeping with the husband of another friend in their group. The pie had photos, hotel receipts, everything. I didn't act on it immediately. I held on to it, my trump card. The final showdown came a month after the party, at a mandatory settlement conference. Emily and I sat across a long, polished table. She'd spent the past month trying to paint me as a controlling, abusive monster with no sense of humor. Her lawyers opened with a list of outrageous demands. She wanted the house, half my business, and permanent alimony. When they finished, Diana just smirked. "That's a creative story," she said. Then she laid out our stance. Emily would get nothing, not the house, not a cent from my company. In fact, we'd be demanding she cover her half of our joint debts, which without my income were significant. Her lawyer scoffed. "On what basis?" "On the basis that your client entered this marriage under false pretenses," Diana said coolly, "and her well-documented pattern of cruelty and infidelity." "Infidelity?" her lawyer said, confused. "There's no mention of infidelity in your petition." "Not on my client's part," Diana replied, "but we have some fascinating details about your client's social circle." That's when I made my move. I looked straight at Emily. "I know about Qley and Steve," I said quietly. Her face went pale. Qley was her closest friend, her cover for countless shopping sprees and late nights. Steve was married to her other friend, Amanda. If this goes to trial, I continued, your friends will be subpoenaed. They'll have to testify under oath about what they knew, about the affair, the prank, everything. Are you ready to drag your entire life and your friends' lives through the mud just to try and take a piece of mine? She stared at me, speechless. Her lawyer looked at her with growing alarm. Or, I said, leaning forward, you can sign the papers, walk away with what you brought into this marriage, nothing, and we can both move on, your call. Final update. It's been 6 months. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks after that meeting. She signed the papers. She took the deal. She had no choice. The threat of mutual destruction was the only language she understood. Her life, from what I hear, is a total wreck. The news of Qley's affair, as I predicted, came out. Her friend group imploded spectacularly. Amanda, the betrayed wife, filed for divorce and cleaned out her husband's accounts. Qley is now a social outcast. Emily, abandoned by her 2 closest friends, is utterly alone. She had to sell her horse. The equestrian club auctioned it off, and I heard it sold for a fraction of what I'd paid. She's still living with her parents, working a dead-end job she despises. The perfect, curated life she'd built was a fragile illusion, and one nudge brought it all down. I saw her once a few weeks ago at one of my restaurants during a routine kitchen check. She was there on a date with some guy who looked as fake as she was. She spotted me. Her face was a mix of fear and raw hatred. She and her date left shortly after. The real revenge wasn't the money, the house, or the horse. It was stripping away her power. Her power came from her social status, her friendships, her ability to manipulate. All I did was hold up a mirror showing her, and everyone else, who she truly was. A cruel, entitled bully who thought her husband's love and respect were a punchline. She handed me divorce papers as a prank. In the end, I handed them back for real. She thought she could walk away whenever she wanted. But I walked away first. She thought she held the reins. In the end, the only thing she controlled was her own catastrophic fall. My life is calm now, it's peaceful, and it's mine, completely mine.